to the next episode or section of EPM Chronicles and Confessions. We've got Simon Ritchie here. Simon, please, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Hi, I'm Simon. I've been working in EPM for almost 20 years. A little bit about me. I started out in finance, actually did accounting and finance degree, started out in finance roles. And I basically fell into EPM because I was the guy who was good with spreadsheets and quite enjoyed doing VBA. And so that just sort of led me down this path. I realized actually I love technology, I love databases, etc. And so I just dived in. I got more and more involved in the technology side of finance and less involved in actually the day-to-day of being a finance business partner or a finance analyst, etc. So absolutely thrilled to be here today.
Thank you so much. So this is a question I ask everybody really. It's very hard actually to explain what we do to outsiders. Have you had any misconceptions what you actually do?
I suppose, yeah. So I've done a few different roles throughout my career. My wife and family never actually know what I do. They just say, yeah, we think he's an accountant, but he tends to do more technology stuff nowadays. He works at a startup. So I worked in finance for a while. I worked managing finance systems, and then I jumped into consulting, and then actually followed my passion for technology into actually work for a technology vendor. That was actually a company called Anaplan. I joined them very early in the journey back in 2013. And I was there for close to 8 years, had a really fun journey there, grew a lot in my career, grew a lot as the company grew. We grew from 100 people to over 2,000 people and went through a really fantastic journey there. So yeah, I suppose misconceptions. Some people come in thinking that EPM is this magical tool that will make all spreadsheets disappear. And I've never seen that to be the case.
Yeah, I know, definitely. So what's the most significant challenge you've faced in EPM, and how did you address it?
Yeah, so yeah, I suppose I've seen all sorts. I worked for a company a few years back. We were trying to model, we were trying to understand the relationships between suppliers and customers. And so we had like 4,000 suppliers and 60,000 customers, and we were trying to model all that in cubes, and it was just massive. It was just really tough to model all that at that scale, and then try and summarize it in a way that you could actually understand and present it to users and draw insight. That was tough. But I suppose maybe kind of more personal, but at Anaplan I moved across away from consulting and into the product management team, start working with developers to work on new capabilities. And we'd been working on a brand new, basically a dashboarding end user experience, a front end for planning and modeling. And we had a big conference coming up. The company had just IPO'd that previous year. So it was a big conference, now in the public spotlight, doing earnings calls every quarter. Big conference in San Francisco. And one of the biggest launches was this new feature that my teams had been building. So we were all ready, and I'm very ambitious when I get into these things. So I'm like, yeah, we'll do a live demo, live on the internet. Why would you want to pre-record something when you can just share it live? Like that's big. Yeah. So we went into it. The problem was that at the event, the internet had been going out frequently, all the time. So the event, so we had backup, and we had 3 levels of backups. We had somebody standing with a spare laptop and phone off the side of the stage. We had a video that would go if I pulled on my ear, and they would switch to a video. So we had backups, but we wanted to do a live demo.
Yeah.
So we got set up, and in like the 5 minutes before, I was going to walk on, plug in my laptop, and do the demo. The internet went down again. So we just didn't have time. So we basically just flipped it over to hotspot on my phone.
Oh, right.
And just had to trust that these pages would load. Went up, when called, plugged in the laptop, and we started the demo, and the first page was already loaded, and then when you click that button and the second page loads and it's connecting to the internet, you just never know what's going to happen. That was quite a frightful moment, but actually it went perfectly. The whole demo without a hitch. It worked very well. So there you go, live keynote run from a mobile hotspot. But there you go. So that was a significant challenge, I'd say.
Fab. So can you share with us a success story that you have?
Yeah, I suppose success story for me in EPM was what I really love is jumping in and working with customers to really who are the ones who really understand their business. And I don't know if it's just my personality where I don't like to write down like very detailed requirements. I prefer to just let's jump into the tool and we can build something here, flesh it out, get an idea of the spec so we can mock it up together. And then we can have somebody come back and fill in the detail, or we can upload the real data later, etc. And so it works nicely with some of the tools that are out there. Some of these tools they're so complex you don't want to be live with customers. But I went in for a day to help one of our partners. It was a technology integrator, and they had 4 or 5 people sitting in a room full time in their building, trying to work out how they could build these models. Basically, what they were doing was writing down requirements, and then they would go off to a back office team to get built, and then come back a few weeks later. And they've been struggling with this problem. And the customer had been in that day to sort of sit down for a meeting, and I suggested, "Oh, why don't we just try and build this thing together?" You could see the resources from the partner team were really struggling. So we actually did, and I said, "Well, Mr. Customer, why don't you actually do on the keyboard here and build?" And this was using Anaplan. It's just very easy and quick to build up like this. So we sat down. It was a very complex asset management company. They wanted to model the fees, and there were some really interesting calculations in there. But we just sat down, and I think within half an hour we managed to get through and tackle some of the complexity that they've been spending days working on. And I suppose the moment that made me proud was like he was happy. He was like, "Yeah, this is awesome. Let's do this. Let's get all of our data in here, and this is perfect." He jumps up feeling like he's just accomplished something finally with his time. And then as he left, the head of the project from the partner side was sitting there going, "Wow, this is amazing." He was very used to working on other software where you had to write the requirements, send it back. You would never build live with a company. So that's the sort of thing that I love to do, working with the person who really understands the business and getting them involved in building.
Oh, great. So as an extension to this, what part of the job that you do you find most rewarding?
Yeah, I'd say I love what we do with finance systems technology, EPM, enterprise performance management solutions, where it hits the users, where it hits leaders, gives them the insight, where you've created an interface for them to basically play with the numbers and look at different scenarios. That's the bit that I really love. So I tend to always start my projects on the user interface side, really understanding that user. We think about personas, so we'll plan out the persona, what they need, just design some high-level dashboards, and then work backward. Because if you start in data and if you start in modeling logic, you end up in a bit of a mess and you create something which no user can really understand and use. So I like to start that way and then kind of work my way back through the really important parts of data and logic that build up to it. So that's where I always start. I love the dashboarding side, the reporting side, the user interface side, how it lands with the decision maker who's got to make some decisions at the end of the day.
So another quirky question: have you got like any funny moments in your career that you can share with us?
Yeah. So funny moment. It's a bit of a quirky one as well. So one of the guys in my team a few years back. He was a math expert. I think he went to Oxford and did maths, and he was very, very good with maths. And so he had basically mocked up a Connect 4 game in the software. So I've never seen it before, that in an EPM or a multi-dimensional planning software, a Connect 4 game. So he's mocked up a Connect 4 game, and he's mocked up the AI that, like, so that the computer can play Connect 4.
Wow.
So we did that. We did it for a few user events where we got a volunteer from the crowd, and they could tell us where they wanted to put the piece, and we'd mark that, and then the computer would respond, and you'd basically have this game between. And so I took it to the next level. I took it to a leadership offsite where we had like some of the most senior leaders in the company at Anaplan, and we got the most competitive person in the room, the chief revenue officer, to come and play against to play Connect 4 basically. Wow. So it's just a really fun,
that's really
quirky thing. Yeah. And here he marked his moves, and actually the computer won. So that was just a really fun moment. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. So you're very unique in many senses, an innovator in this industry. You're starting your own EPM vendor company in a way. So what inspired you to do that? And could you tell a little bit of the story?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm working on a brand new venture right now. We're called Blox. You can find us online, blox.so. We are, I suppose the background for me, I've worked in this space for a long time. I've worked with all the key players, IBM, Hyperion, Jedox, Anaplan, etc. A lot of different solutions. I've seen a lot of them. I've seen where they're strong and where they're not so strong. And I believe there's still fundamentally a long way for us to go to make the solutions better, faster, cheaper, and easier. The seed for me was planted back in COVID. I suppose I've worked with a lot of very large enterprises. And during COVID, I actually ended up somehow volunteering for a local charity. I was driving food parcels around. And the charity, when they found out I was a finance person and in technology, they were like, please come and help us in the back office, because we can help reporting to our grant providers, etc. So I went and ended up doing a little bit of voluntary work for them in the back office. And what I saw was a very similar picture, like a lot of they're using systems for certain bit. Whenever it comes to decision making or reporting, it's very manual. You're downloading data, creating, adding up spreadsheets. In this case, what I saw was actually that they had, for some of their reporting back to vendors, they weren't tech savvy. They admitted that, but to tell the grant provider how many services that they'd run, they would download a report and then filter it a bit, and then they would count the number of rows and then type that into their report. So they didn't even know about basic things like selecting some cells and seeing and just all the other things that, if you really want to invest your time, you can learn some formulas and functions for that. And so I just saw that there's a big need in smaller businesses, and in this case, a charity organization. And I knew that that a lot of the software that I've been working with, EPM software, planning software, would be very valuable. And so that was what sort of planted the seed in me of, actually, Simon, you could build something that could go and help that audience to do better reporting, to do better planning, to make better decisions. And so that's really what we're working on. We're building Blox, which is all about planning and modeling, initially focused on the mid-market. And our goal is to make it really easy and really affordable.
Fantastic.
So much of this market is still untapped, because the solutions today are quite expensive, so they're not for everybody, and they're also quite hard to use, even for smaller ad hoc use cases. So that keeps a lot of people back in spreadsheets when there's a lot more that we could do for them.
Cool. Thank you for that. Something for the audience here. How do you keep abreast of all the things that's happening in EPM. It's a very dynamic market, especially now. We've got, got the traditional players, like disruptors maybe coming in, and there's also people who are actually trying to do AI and all this other stuff. So how do you keep abreast of all this?
Yeah. So I suppose I try and get up to speed a few times a year in detail. But what I find is that if I am constantly watching and constantly watching other companies' updates, I get distracted. It just plays with my head. And if you're looking too closely at what the competitors are doing, you end up copying them, or you end up I don't want to copy them. So I end up purposefully not doing something that they just did. So I tend to focus on what my customers and my prospects are talking about and interested in, and then as they're talking about things, they might tell me that they saw something interesting from X, in which case I'll learn about it. So I tend to get up to speed at key moments when we're doing our strategic planning, our roadmap planning, etc. I'll dive in, and then the rest of the time I just try not to. I don't. I try not to, because I don't want it to skew my thought process. Right now I'm creating something, and so I be a bit careful.
Fantastic. So as you know, industry, it requires fresh blood, and people are learning. People want to come in, and we were all new once. What kind of advice do you give to these people, or people who want to learn or get better at what they do?
So I think that there's some sort of good foundational tools that I'd go and learn. I definitely spend a bit of time learning databases and just learning some basic SQL and just stuff like that. Just learning some of the concepts of databases is a great start. Similarly, learning reporting and BI tool, but BI is a great foundation as well. So learn Power BI, or go and find a good dashboarding tool that you think will probably be relevant in your career, and just learn how to do some basic dashboarding, and then dive in. There's some really good books around visualization design, when to use which visualization, etc. So there's some good foundational work there. And then in terms of EPM, I would say go and try a few different tools. Don't just stick with the one that your company currently has.
Sure.
If you're early, especially if you're early in your career and you want to have a kind of you want to be able to go and work in different environments with different tools, you could become very siloed in your thinking if you just stick with one, and especially if it's a 20-year-old software that is probably a bit outdated in some of its.
So that's a good point.
So go and learn some of the different softwares. There's some good stuff that you can do. I would learn about dimensions and multi-dimensional approach, which I think is fundamental to how we approach things in EPM. And so go and learn, go and try some of these different softwares. With Blox, we've got a nice version you can learn on too. So that would be my suggestion. Try a few. It'll give you a really good base knowledge.
Sure. Now here's an interesting question. What do you think will be happening in this industry of ours in the next 5 years?
Yes. So it's I think what we'll see is that you can look at other industries that I think are a little bit more advanced, a bit further through the maturity curve, if you like. If you look at, for example, BI started with complex enterprise software, and then it moved to the cloud, and then it moved to self-service. And now most BI is really self-service. You've got some sort of, and so I think that EPM will move in a similar way, where eventually what we want to see is that EPM, planning, modeling, scenario modeling, those sorts of capabilities will become more self-service. So rather than having everything being pushed out from a team in the center, you'll have data, controlled golden source data that's made available for everybody, but that you'll also see that teams are really keen to grab that data and then run their own scenarios and build their own models.
Sure.
At the moment today, in most of our EPM world, I think it tends to be a push, like it's built centrally, budget is sponsored centrally, and then these things are pushed and mandated. And I think over time we'll see the rise of like kind of next generation leaders who want to dive into the data. They want to run their own scenarios, so they'll run their own. They'll want to be more self-sufficient in different departments, different business units, etc. That's what we're banking on with Blox. That's our kind of approach. And then I think there's definitely going to be a wave of intelligent capabilities that come through the different products that are available. So I think that extends to, for sure, it's leveraging AI to help interrogate the data that's in front of you and give you insights. It's also, I believe, like using AI to actually build some of these models.
Completely, yeah.
And so that some of these models were actually, this is sort of one of the things we're really focusing on, is being able to generate models to take a lot of the legwork and time and pain out of up and running with something, and being able to flex and change the models as the business changes. So I think there's definitely going to be a wave, but I'd say self-service, motion, and intelligent.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for today. It was really enlightening, and also kind of learned a lot. So definitely we'll talk to you in the future, and take care. Have a good day.
Thanks everybody. Bye.